Good afternoon, it's Glenn from Air to Audio. We're here this afternoon at the Audio Barn in Essex to launch the new SM025 amplifiers. I have Hans-Ole Vitus here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Understand you're now back as CEO of Vitus Audio. How does it feel to be back in the role, and how has the industry responded to that?
That is correct. Since basically the 1st of January, I'm now back as the sole owner of AVA Group, which is the main company holding the brand Vitus Audio. I'm also the CEO, so it's a little bit strange to be back, but it's also very good because obviously I was trying to separate myself from the everyday business of running AVA Group, just to focus on design, which I do in my separate company called Vitus R&D. But that also enabled me to sit on the outside and look in to what was happening in the company and some of the things, the mistakes that I've made in the past, and it made me realize that certain things probably could be optimized and molded in a little bit different way to keep focus on why I actually started the company in the first place. So after a long chat and negotiations, that's the situation that occurred here 1st of January. So yeah, I'm the CEO. I'm the designer, and I'm also the brand ambassador, and so I'm here as in the capacity of being a brand ambassador to introduce these new babies. How has the market reacted so far? Well, the ones I've talked to at this point has reacted extremely positive. When me as a person starts a brand many years ago, and it's carrying my name, I kind of become the brand, and taking that role over is extremely difficult for any person. So I guess it's easy to be happy that the founder is back, and I just hope I can fill that role in the way people expect me to.
Excellent. No, it's good to have you back at the helm. As previously mentioned, obviously we're here with the new SM025 amplifiers. What sets these new amplifiers apart from previous models, and just give us a bit of information about them, please.
Yeah, will do. First of all, just so everybody's on the same page, the predecessor of these was the SM011s. So the main difference is these are taller and they have a logo on the top. And let's get serious. Well, to talk a little bit about the background first, one of the things I did with Vitus R&D and the whole separation from AVA Group at the time was for me to focus on R&D again, the design, going back to where it all started, which was me being a nerd and just building amps that I thought was cool, that then turned into a business, and then I kind of got in more focused on the business side, not so much the R&D side. So I went back to that. And one of the things that I spent the past 3 years or so on was really, in lack of a better way of explaining it, reset myself in terms of, or reinvent myself, in terms of these technologies that we've always used, which is, we always use toroidal transformers, we never use global feedback, we only use bipolar transistors and all of these things that I've been promoting for 20 years. With this reset, what I'm meaning with that is to be sure, taking a step back and be sure that these are still the main relevance for us, or whether something else evolved in a way that we should consider, changing some of the technologies that we're using. And I said I spent quite a bit of time doing that. And what I actually ended up with was a major change in the transformer design of these amplifiers. So today these are 1.2 kilowatt per channel, which is 200 watts more than the SM011s. And anyone looking at the spec sheet will say this is not true, because that spec sheet actually says that it's 1.4 kilowatt transformers in the 011s, and that's true. But the fact is that 400 of those watts were actually used to take care of mechanical and electrical noise of those transformers, because this technology we used at the time it was very sensitive to DC on the mains, and it could induce mechanical vibrations and stuff like that, and of course you don't want that in any way. So the fact was, they were actually, the performance of them and the power you could actually draw from them was 1 kilowatt. So these are 1.2 kilowatts. So there's a 20% increase of power over the old ones. So that's the one thing. The other thing on the mechanical side is that these are taking a lot of the special things we did on the mechanical design for the SIO 30, which really has to do with the whole ventilation of the chassis, the electronics, which means that these run a little bit cooler, which means that lifetime is longer compared to the old models. And I have to say that when I talk about lifetime, I'm not talking 10 years or 12 years, I'm talking plus 20 years minimum. And then on the electrical side, apart from the transformer, we totally overhaul, let's say, the input states. So the input stage in itself is more linear. It has lesser noise, which also comes down to the way that we did the power supply. So we actually divided up the input stage in 4 different sections, which is kind of normal, but each of them have their own regulator attached to it. So this helps a lot. And if I remember right, I believe these actually has a signal to noise ratio of about 125 dB, minus 125 dB, where the SIO 30 is a little bit less. And the SIO 30 has a regulated power supply, which really helps lowering the noise floor. These doesn't. This is the traditional non-regulated power supply for the output stage. So this has to do with the input stage. It has to do with the layout, the whole grounding scheme, etc. So this is one of the areas where we really went to the next level on these, and these are the first that incorporate that. The output stage has changed, so we use new devices, power devices, that we will introduce in all our models. But a little bit tweaked, I would say, way of doing the whole classic and rock mode in terms of how many transistors is in parallel and when there's no transistors in parallel, etc. So we tweaked the output stage to match these new transistors. The bandwidth is also a little bit higher, but that's a different thing. So that's some of the key things on these amps.
So obviously recently we were lucky enough to visit you over in Denmark at the factory with some of the guys here from the Audio Barn. It was great to see the level of investment in the equipment and the technologies you guys are using out there. It's simply class leading. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. Thank you for mentioning it. I mean, it is true, and it's some years ago, but it's not. Well, we've talked about it, but it's not something we really focused on, because for us it's just second nature. It's it's a part of what we do. But we did invest heavily into an SMT line and a through-hole line to be able to manufacture or populate the boards in-house. And for us, it's just, as I said, it's natural, because we want the highest quality we can get. So just as one example, one of the things that we do maybe a little bit different than others is the standard PCB thickness is 1.6 millimeters. That's just the standard. Ours is 2 millimeters. And then we add on top of that the thickness of the copper layer. So, the normal norm is 35 micrometers. What most uses is 70 micrometers. Then you can go to 105 and 140 micrometers. And for output stages of the power amps, we're at, don't remember actually if it's 205, 210 or 240. But it's above 200 micrometers. And the norm also is you do those thick layers on the top and bottom layer of the board and not the middle layers. There you keep it 70 micrometers maybe. But we also do plus 200 in the middle layers. And it makes the board quite thick. And of course the energy transfer you need to have to solder in a proper way is a lot more than if you just use a standard board, which means that if we were using an external EMS, they would have to basically stop their production just to run our boards, because they have to change the soldering profiles and all of that. And they don't really want to do that, so the risk is they would just take it through with a normal soldering profile, and then we would have bad quality, and we can't accept that. So this is just one example of the reasons why we took all the manufacturing of that in-house. The next level we did on the soldering is that the standard soldering machine for surface-mounted devices is called a reflow oven, and the best way I can describe it is that it's a massive amount of toasters placed above and below the board, and you have a conveyor belt going through, and you have X number of zones. The problem with that is it's like heat radiation. So if you have a small component sitting close to a large component, you have a shadow effect, because that component might actually be in the shadow of those heat waves, and so it doesn't get soldered properly. What we use is called vapor phase. It's basically steam. So the boards are lowered into a steam chamber where the steam is controlled at a very, very specific temperature and very easy to control. And because of that, everything gets the same temperature inside that temperature. Large components, small components, the whole board, everything is at the same temperature, which means that we get very, very high quality of soldering. And when we got this machine, it was only used in military, in medical equipment, aerospace, that kind of thing, because if you had a bad soldering in one of these machines, it would be bad, let's say. So that's just kind of the level that we go to, just to have quality. We invested, I believe, it was around €1 million on these machines, and we've had them for about, I think, around 10 years actually at this point. But yeah, it's not something that we did made a whole lot of noise about. It was just what we had to do, I guess, and we're looking into other areas of doing similar things moving forward. So,
excellent. So moving forward, how important are events like this we're doing today here at the Audio Barn, and obviously as your role now as ambassador, re-engaging with the people?
It is super important. It's one of the things I actually enjoy the most, and it's one of the things I was missing in the past 2-ish years. That I was getting deep into the whole R&D part again, and I didn't realize at the time that one of the things that is actually the most important thing to me as a developer is to get feedback from the customers, the market, to the directions that we choose to go in. And I didn't realize it really, that this is what I enjoyed doing the most in the past, I don't know how many years. So one thing is sitting there in the cave and getting new ideas and working on stuff. The other thing is actually getting out, like this event here with the last products that we finished the design of and now in production with, to not only interact with the customers, and generally talk to them and getting their feedback on the product, but generally their understanding of who we are as a brand and how they see us as a brand. That is super, super important to me. So of course you have the big shows, and we're doing shows around the world. We're supporting shows all over the world, but I far prefer to do this type of event, because when we're at a show, we're busy, because there's reporters and there's existing partners, and then there's the end customers, and all of this in one big mix, and we still have to run the system and all that, and we just end up always in a situation, or at least I do, where when the show ends, like, okay, so I was talking to so many people, can't remember any of them really, and did I speak to all the people that actually came into the room, because of all this stress that's going around. So I don't really get the same feedback, one-on-one kind of feedback or small group that I can manage to compute during that, because I'm trying to keep an eye on the whole room. So that's just one reason why I really prefer doing this type of events. Getting closer to the audience, interact with the audience, almost said get a little bit more intimate with the audience. And I love the provocateur questions that comes from time to time, because it's a challenge to me, because if I don't rest in myself and with what we are doing as a brand, then I can't handle some tricky questions, and then I'm just not doing the right job. Then I have to do better. So that's also a really cool thing, to have the whole energy and all that, and it's an inspiration. I come home from a trip like this, and the head is exploding with ideas, because customers are always like, why do you have this shift between class A and AB? That makes no sense. Well, it's cool to have that, because then I can explain why we do it, and I haven't met a single person after explaining it to them that doesn't go, yeah, that makes sense. So it for me it's cool, and the next level of this for me is actually visiting customers, and this is more to see what they actually did in their own space with our equipment. That is a huge inspiration to me. I did that a lot in Asia, and I love to do that everywhere else in the world, because that's amazing for me. And just to sit and talk to people and listen to their favorite music and have a general, let's say, offline, non-commercial, whatever, talk about how they experience music with our components in them. That is for me what I love to do the most, actually.
Obviously, you mentioned Vitus R&D. Obviously, these are the latest fruits. What holds Vitus for the next 12 to 18 months? Where do you see the company going, and what are we going to see from the brand?
There's a lot of things going to happen that I can't talk too much about right now, but I have to kind of just settle in, let's say. But of course, I'm working on lots of ideas in terms of what the roadmap is going to look like. The other thing is, of course, what direction the company is going in. Well, the company is not going in a different direction than it has been doing since we started. We're simply focusing on building the best products that we can, of the highest quality we can, products that doesn't just impress at first listen, but impress over a long period of time. That's kind of the main goal for us. So we'll continue, in that direction. The thing that we will also strengthen more is this whole thing when we have new products coming out. And as I've explained in other scenarios, the kind of let's say the norm for us is that every 8th year we will have a new model. If it makes sense, we might not have one, but if we think we've moved the technology and the performance enough, we will have a new model every 8th year. And if in between we can do some minor, from a implementation point of view, minor upgrades, so it's easy to upgrade existing products in the field, we will have a Mark II. In terms of specific products, the first thing that's going to happen is we're going to have a new integrated amplifier in the reference series, which is going to be below the current RI101. We haven't named it yet, we just know it's an RI because reference integrated, but the number, whatever that follows that we normally do, we might actually renovate that as well. So it potentially makes more sense to the customers and not just me, which is going to retail around 12,000 euro. It's still going to have the possibility of an optional DAC streamer, potentially the phono stage as well. Depending on the size we choose to have, there might only be space for one or the other, but there might be space for two. This is something that hasn't been completely decided yet. So that's kind of where the Vitus Audio roadmap or product portfolio, as it looks right now, that's one of the first things that will come. The other, for me, very exciting things that's going to happen is, obviously, Alexander, my son, who was the CEO before me, he started this brand called Aloxity, and it was kind of more a what do you call that? Like I forgot the word, but not the Vitus Audio, the big brute stuff, more design line kind of thing.
Aesthetically.
Yes, exactly. I've made the decision that is going to stop existing as a separate brand, because running two different brands is twice the work. It's not completely twice the work, but it's close enough to being twice the work to consider this. And the conclusion is that we will simply bring this in as a series within the Vitus Audio family, below our reference series. So the target is that we will have products that goes sub 10,000 euro. How far down remains to be seen. We're still, in the process of figuring out the details about that. But that's, for me, is extremely exciting, because it's a new challenge to me, let's say, and it's one of the things I learned or discovered when I separated from the main company. I always told people, well, I don't care about price when I design stuff. I just try to build absolutely the best we can, and everything else doesn't really interest me. But a new added interest to that is actually how far can I bring the performance at a price point, and it's never interested me before. So that's something new that happened, and this is why I'm making this move. And I don't think we will see product launches before very late this year, or probably more like next year. But that's kind of the window that
Sounds like you're going to be extremely busy.
I am, but I'm not alone in the R&D department. There are at least one extra person that was hired about 6 months ago. So yeah, because of the ambassador role, obviously I will have less time in the office because I'll be traveling. But now this new added person, he can do a lot of the work, while I'm traveling, and then we can cooperate when I'm back. So we are taking that approach from the R&D part, that we are looking at platforms first, technology platforms. So right now, because we're finishing up the SIO 30 phono stage, and talking of that, this comes in 3 different types. The first one goes into production within 2 weeks. The MC stage is based on step-up transformers. The next version, it's an active stage based on FETs, which I never used, but the guy I hired, he's used to FETs, so he brings that to the table. Technology I never managed to get good results with because, I don't know everything.
And he's internal or external?
He's internal. He is hired within Vitus R&D. And then the third version that we're looking into and we're expecting to hopefully bring to the market latest around Vienna is still for the SIO 30 is a phono stage which supports the optical cartridges. So because we're doing this now, we're basically continuing for the next 2-3 months, finishing off our technology study on phono stages, and then we're parking that. That's when I can really start taking over and taking what we realize, the different technologies, and start to build them into new modules for the existing RP 102 and SP 103 and MPP. While he starts, my employee, on the next thing that we're going to look at. So we're focusing this year on getting through 4 different new technology studies. And from there, we start to build actual products. So while he's doing that in the office and I travel, I can still work on the electronic and mechanical design when I travel. So it's not like I'm completely off. But yeah, I'll be busy.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming today. We really appreciate your time and taking the time to visit us over here in the UK. And it's been an absolute pleasure.
Well, likewise, I'm happy to be here, and I can come whenever you need me.